The morning sun cast long shadows across the shooting range at Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado, California. Staff Sergeant Lena Gray adjusted her position behind the Barrett M82A1 sniper rifle, feeling the familiar weight of the weapon against her shoulder. At 28 years old, she had already spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, but today would mark a turning point that nobody saw coming. "You sure about this, Gray?" called out Master Chief Petty Officer Jake Morrison from behind the safety line. His voice carried a mix of skepticism and curiosity that had become all too familiar over the past weeks. "These boys don't usually like surprises." Lena didn't turn around. Her focus remained fixed on the target downrange, a silhouette positioned at 1,200 meters. The wind was calm, conditions were perfect, and she had been preparing for this moment longer than anyone realized. "I'm sure, Master Chief," she replied, her voice steady and confident. Behind her stood 12 members of SEAL Team 7, their arms crossed and expressions ranging from amused to openly dismissive. They had heard about the Marine sniper who claimed she could outshoot their best marksmen, but none of them believed it. Women had only recently been allowed into combat roles, and the idea of a female Marine challenging the elite Navy SEALs seemed like a publicity stunt to most of them. Lieutenant Commander Rick Razor Martinez stepped forward, his weathered face showing years of combat experience in Afghanistan and Iraq. "Look, no disrespect to the Corps, but we've got standards here. My boys don't have time for, then, let her shoot," interrupted Commander Sarah Williams, the base's newest intelligence officer. She had been watching quietly from the observation deck, studying the dynamics playing out below. "If she misses, you can go back to your training. If she hits," she let the sentence hang in the air. Lena had grown up in rural Montana, where hunting wasn't just a hobby. It was how her family put food on the table. Her father, a Vietnam veteran who rarely spoke about his service, had taught her to shoot when she was 8 years old. By the time she was 12, she could hit a prairie dog at 400 yards with his old Winchester rifle. But it wasn't until she enlisted in the Marines that she discovered her true calling. The journey to this moment had been anything but easy. Basic training at Paris Island was designed to break recruits, but Lena thrived under pressure. Her drill instructors quickly noticed her natural ability with firearms, and she was fast-tracked into advanced marksmanship training. Within 2 years, she had earned her Scout Sniper designation, one of only a handful of women to achieve this status. Her first deployment to Afghanistan came in 2019, where she served as part of a Marine Expeditionary Unit supporting special operations. It was there that she first encountered Navy SEALs in action, watching them coordinate complex missions with surgical precision. She had dreamed of working alongside such elite units, but the barriers seemed insurmountable. "Range is hot," announced the safety officer over the loudspeaker. "One shot, one target at 1,200 meters. Lena settled into her shooting position, controlling her breathing just as her instructors had taught her years ago. The rifle felt like an extension of her body, every component perfectly zeroed and adjusted to her specifications. She had spent countless hours with this particular weapon, learning its nuances and capabilities. Through the scope, the target appeared crisp and clear despite the distance. At 1,200 meters, even the slightest miscalculation could result in a complete miss. Environmental factors like wind speed, humidity, and even the rotation of the Earth had to be considered. But Lena had calculated everything in advance, running the numbers in her head until they became second nature. The SEALs behind her had grown quiet, their casual chatter replaced by professional interest. Several of them were accomplished marksmen themselves, and they recognized the difficulty of a shot she was attempting. Petty Officer First Class Tommy "Tank" Rodriguez nudged his teammate. "Think she'll even hit the paper?" "No way," whispered back Petty Officer Second Class Mike Chun. "I've seen Marines try this before. They talk a big game, but when it comes to actual precision shooting..." Master Chief Morrison raised his binoculars, scanning the target area downrange. He had been in the Navy for 22 years and had seen hundreds of sailors and Marines attempt challenging shots. Very few succeeded under pressure, especially with an audience of skeptical SEALs watching their every move. Lena's finger moved to the trigger guard, then settled gently on the trigger itself. She had learned long ago that good shooting was 90% mental preparation and 10% physical execution. The key was to eliminate all distractions and focus entirely on the fundamentals: sight picture, breathing, trigger control. Her breathing slowed to a natural rhythm. Inhale, exhale, natural respiratory pause. During that brief moment when her lungs were empty and her body was perfectly still, she would take the shot. But first, she allowed herself a moment to think about the path that had brought her here. Growing up as the youngest of 4 children in a military family had shaped Lena's competitive nature from an early age. Her 3 older brothers had all served in various branches of the military, and she felt pressure to prove that she belonged among them. When her eldest brother David was killed by an IED in Iraq in 2016, that pressure transformed into something deeper, a sense of duty and purpose that drove her to excel in everything she attempted. The Marine Corps had given her structure and direction, but it was her natural talent with precision weapons that set her apart from her peers. Her shooting scores consistently ranked in the top 1% of all Marines, regardless of gender. She had competed in military marksmanship competitions across the country, often placing higher than men who had been shooting professionally for decades. But success in competitions was different from earning respect in the real world of special operations. The SEALs represented the pinnacle of military excellence, and breaking into their ranks required more than just exceptional marksmanship skills. It demanded proof that she could perform under pressure when lives depended on her abilities. "Anytime you're ready, Marine," called out Lieutenant Commander Martinez, his tone suggesting he expected this demonstration to end quickly. Lena made a final adjustment to her scope, compensating for a slight breeze that had picked up from the west. The wind wasn't strong enough to significantly affect the bullet's trajectory, but at extreme distances, even minor environmental changes could mean the difference between a hit and a miss. She thought about her father, who had passed away 3 years earlier from cancer. He had never lived to see her achieve her Scout Sniper qualification, but she knew he would be proud of how far she had come. His lessons about patience and persistence had shaped her approach to everything in life, including this moment. The target seemed to shimmer slightly in the heat waves rising from the desert floor, but Lena's scope was calibrated to cut through such visual distortions. She had practiced in similar conditions hundreds of times, learning to read the environment and adjust accordingly. Behind her, Commander Williams watched with professional interest. As an intelligence officer, she understood the strategic value of having diverse skill sets within special operations teams. The military was slowly adapting to include women in combat roles, but progress was often met with resistance from traditionalists who questioned whether standards were being lowered. "She's been holding that position for 2 minutes," observed Petty Officer Chun. "Either she's waiting for perfect conditions or she's second-guessing herself." Master Chief Morrison had seen enough nervous shooters to recognize the signs, but Lena displayed none of them. Her breathing remained controlled, her position was stable, and her rifle hadn't wavered despite the extended hold. Whatever she was waiting for, it wasn't because of nerves. The truth was that Lena wasn't waiting for anything external. She was running through her mental checklist one final time, verifying every calculation and ensuring that when she pulled the trigger, there would be no doubt about the outcome. This shot represented more than just marksmanship. It was her opportunity to prove that she belonged among the elite. Her military career had been marked by a series of increasingly difficult challenges, each one designed to test her limits and determine whether she had what it took to serve alongside the best warriors in the world. She had passed every test so far, but this one felt different. The SEALs weren't just evaluating her shooting ability. They were deciding whether she was worthy of their respect. The wind died to almost nothing, creating ideal shooting conditions. Lena's finger applied steady pressure to the trigger, feeling the weapon's mechanism respond to her input. Years of training had taught her to follow through completely, maintaining her sight picture even after the shot broke. The Barrett M82A1 erupted with a thunderous roar that echoed across the entire range. The massive .50 caliber rifle bucked against Lena's shoulder, but her position remained solid throughout the recoil. The muzzle blast kicked up dust around her position, temporarily obscuring her view of the target. For a moment, complete silence settled over the range. The SEALs behind her strained to see downrange, while Master Chief Morrison kept his binoculars trained on the target area. The bullet's flight time at that distance was approximately 1.5 seconds, enough time for doubt to creep into even the most confident shooter's mind. "Impact confirmed," announced the range safety officer over the radio. "Reviewing target now." The next few seconds felt like hours as everyone waited for the official assessment. Lena remained in position behind her rifle, knowing that her shot had felt perfect, but understanding that feeling and reality didn't always align in precision shooting. Lieutenant Commander Martinez lowered his own binoculars and looked at his team with an expression they hadn't seen before. Petty Officer Rodriguez stepped forward, shading his eyes against the bright California sun as he tried to make out details at the distant target. "Well," prompted Commander Williams from the observation deck. The range safety officer's voice crackled over the radio again. "Target scored. Dead center mass, approximately 2 inches from point of aim. Textbook precision shot at 1,200 meters. The silence that followed was different from before. Instead of skeptical anticipation, it carried a weight of surprise and respect that none of the SEALs had expected to feel. They had witnessed something exceptional, and their usual confidence had been replaced by genuine curiosity about the woman who had just outperformed many of their own marksmen. Lena finally lifted her head from the scope and engaged the rifle's safety. She had known the shot was good from the moment she pulled the trigger, but hearing official confirmation still brought a sense of satisfaction. More importantly, she could see in the faces around her that something fundamental had changed. "Outstanding shot, Marine," said Master Chief Morrison, his earlier skepticism replaced by professional admiration. "That was some of the finest long-range shooting I've seen in 22 years of service." Lieutenant Commander Martinez approached Lena's position, his expression thoughtful. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" "Montana, sir. My father taught me when I was young, and the Corps refined the skills." Lena's response was matter-of-fact, without any trace of boasting or false modesty. "And you think you're ready for special operations?" Martinez continued. "I know I am, sir." The SEAL commander studied her for a long moment, weighing factors that went beyond marksmanship ability. Special operations demanded not just technical skills, but also mental toughness, adaptability, and the ability to function effectively under extreme stress. One perfect shot, while impressive, couldn't answer all those questions. "Tell me about Afghanistan," he said finally. Lena had been waiting for this question. Her deployment records were excellent, but she knew that SEALs valued real-world experience above all else. "2 tours, sir. First as part of a standard infantry unit, second attached to a special operations task force as a designated marksman. 37 confirmed eliminations, all at distances exceeding 800 meters. The numbers spoke for themselves, but it was her calm delivery that impressed the listening SEALs. She wasn't bragging about taking lives. She was simply reporting the facts of her service record. That kind of emotional control was essential for operators who might face similar situations in the future. Petty Officer Rodriguez stepped closer to examine Lena's rifle setup. As Team 7's designated marksman, he understood the technical aspects of precision shooting better than most. "Custom modifications?" he asked. "Some," Lena acknowledged. "Trigger work, custom barrel, and a stock that's been adjusted for my specifications. The scope is military issue, but I've spent considerable time with this particular unit. Mind if I take a look?" Lena stepped aside, allowing Rodriguez to examine her weapon. His inspection was thorough, but respectful, checking the rifle's configuration and noting the careful attention to detail in its setup. Everything from the bipod positioning to the scope mounting showed professional-grade craftsmanship. This is serious equipment, Rodriguez concluded. You do all the work yourself? Most of it. I learned gunsmithing basics from my father, and the Corps provided additional training. I believe in knowing every aspect of my weapons system. Commander Williams had descended from the observation deck and now stood with the group surrounding Lena. As the base's intelligence officer, she had been following Lena's career with interest, recognizing the strategic value of having exceptional marksmen available for special operations missions. The shot was impressive, Williams said, but Team 7 isn't just looking for shooters. They need operators who can handle the full spectrum of special operations missions. Are you prepared for that level of commitment? It was a fair question, and one that Lena had been asking herself for months. Special operations training was notoriously difficult, with failure rates exceeding 80% even among highly qualified candidates. Success required not just physical and technical capabilities, but also the mental resilience to endure prolonged periods of extreme stress. I've been preparing for this opportunity for 3 years, ma'am. Physical training, advanced tactical courses, language study, and extensive marksmanship practice. I understand what's required, and I'm ready to prove myself. Master Chief Morrison nodded approvingly. He had heard similar declarations from dozens of candidates over the years, but most lacked the quiet confidence that Lena displayed. Her body language suggested someone who had already faced significant challenges and emerged stronger because of them. What languages? Asked Petty Officer Chun, whose own linguistic abilities had proven valuable during deployments to Southeast Asia. Spanish, Arabic, and basic Dari. I spent 8 months in language immersion programs between deployments. The SEALs exchanged glances. Language skills were increasingly important for modern special operations, as missions often required close coordination with foreign military units and local populations. Finding operators who combined tactical expertise with cultural awareness was becoming more challenging as the military faced budget constraints and recruiting difficulties. Lieutenant Commander Martinez made a decision that would change multiple lives. There's an opening in our next selection class. It starts in 6 weeks, and the failure rate is typically around 85%. Are you interested? Lena felt her heart rate increase slightly, but her expression remained composed. This was the opportunity she had been working toward for years, but she also understood the magnitude of what was being offered. Selection would test every aspect of her capabilities, and failure would likely end her chances of ever joining special operations. Yes, sir. I'm very interested. Good. Report to Master Chief Morrison tomorrow morning at 0500 for initial processing. You'll need to complete psychological evaluations, additional physical testing, and security clearance updates before the class begins. As the group began to disperse, Petty Officer Rodriguez approached Lena one more time. That was a hell of a shot, he said quietly. But shooting is maybe 10% of what we do. The rest is a lot harder than hitting targets at long range. I understand, Lena replied, but I'm ready to learn. Rodriguez studied her face, looking for signs of overconfidence or naive enthusiasm. Instead, he saw the same calm determination that had characterized her shooting demonstration. We'll see. Good luck, Marine. As Lena packed up her equipment, she reflected on how quickly her situation had changed. That morning, she had been just another Marine hoping for a chance to prove herself. Now, she was officially enrolled in one of the military's most challenging training programs, with an opportunity to join an elite unit that very few people ever had the chance to serve with. The Barrett M82A1 went back into its protective case, having served its purpose perfectly. But Lena knew that the rifle was just a tool. The real test would be whether she possessed the mental and physical capabilities needed to succeed in an environment where failure meant more than just missing a target. Walking back toward the base administration building, she thought about the phone call she would make to her mother that evening. Her family had always supported her military career, but this opportunity represented something beyond what any of them had imagined possible. The next 6 weeks would be crucial preparation time. Lena had already been maintaining an intense physical training regimen, but she would need to push even harder to ensure she was ready for the demands of selection. Sleep, nutrition, and mental preparation would all play important roles in determining whether she succeeded or joined the majority of candidates who didn't make it through the program. Master Chief Morrison caught up with her near the parking area. "Gray, you impressed some people today who don't impress easily. But don't let that go to your head. Selection is designed to break candidates who think they're already good enough." "Understood, Master Chief. I'll be ready. I believe you will. See you tomorrow morning." As Lena drove home to her small apartment near the base, she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The shot had been perfect, but more importantly, it had opened a door that had previously seemed locked. Tomorrow would begin the next phase of her journey toward becoming something she had dreamed about since her first encounter with Special Operations Forces in Afghanistan. The evening ahead would be spent reviewing training materials and beginning the mental preparation that would sustain her through the challenges to come. She had proven that she could shoot with the best marksmen in the military, but now she would need to prove that she belonged among the elite warriors who called themselves SEALs. The sun was setting over the Pacific as Lena parked outside her apartment, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that reminded her of Montana sunsets from her childhood. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of the most difficult period of her military career, but tonight she felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The alarm clock's harsh buzz cut through the darkness at 0430 hours. Though Lena had been awake for the past 20 minutes, mentally preparing for what promised to be the most challenging day of her military career. 6 weeks had passed since her demonstration at the shooting range, and today marked the beginning of SEAL selection, a process that would either validate years of preparation or end her special operations dreams permanently. She dressed quickly in a prescribed uniform, standard Navy physical training gear that looked deceptively simple for something that would be tested to its limits over the coming weeks. Her apartment had become increasingly sparse during the preparation period, with non-essential items packed away and her focus narrowed to only what mattered for success. The drive to the Naval Special Warfare Training Compound took 15 minutes through empty pre-dawn streets. Lena had made this journey dozens of times during her preparation period, but today felt fundamentally different. She was no longer a visitor hoping for an opportunity. She was a candidate about to face the military's most rigorous selection process. Master Chief Morrison was waiting in the parking area when she arrived, along with 23 other candidates from various military branches. The group included Marine recon operators, Army Rangers, Air Force pararescue specialists, and even a few Navy sailors who had proven themselves exceptional in their previous assignments. Looking at her fellow candidates, Lena realized that everyone present had already achieved significant success in their military careers. "Good morning, candidates," Morrison announced as the group assembled in formation. "Today begins what will either be the most rewarding or the most humbling experience of your military careers. Over the next 8 weeks, you will be tested in ways that go far beyond anything you've experienced previously." The Master Chief's words carried weight born of experience. He had overseen dozens of selection classes over the past decade, watching hundreds of highly qualified candidates discover that their previous achievements meant nothing in this new environment. Success required a unique combination of physical capability, mental resilience, and emotional control that very few people possessed. "Follow me," Morrison continued, leading the group toward a nondescript building that served as the selection program's headquarters. Inside, the walls were lined with photographs of previous classes, showing groups of candidates at various stages of their training. Lena noticed that many of the later photos showed significantly fewer people than the early ones. The first several hours were dedicated to administrative processing, final medical examinations, psychological evaluations, and security briefings that emphasized the classified nature of much special operations training. Lena found herself seated across from Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a military psychologist who specialized in evaluating candidates for high-stress assignments. "Tell me why you want to be here," Dr. Walsh began, her tone neutral but attentive. "I want to serve at the highest level possible," Lena replied honestly. "I believe my skills can contribute to mission success in special operations, and I'm prepared to prove that through performance. Dr. Walsh made notes while asking follow-up questions designed to probe for underlying motivations and potential psychological vulnerabilities. The evaluation process was thorough, but not hostile, focusing on identifying candidates who possessed the mental stability needed for operations where failure could result in loss of life. Have you experienced significant failure in your military career? Dr. Walsh asked. Lena considered the question carefully. I've faced challenges that required adaptation and learning. During my second deployment, our unit was tasked with providing overwatch for a village patrol that came under attack. My shooting position was compromised, and I had to relocate while maintaining effective fire support. The experience taught me that plans often change rapidly, and success depends on adapting quickly. The psychologist nodded, recognizing the kind of real-world experience that often distinguished successful candidates from those who struggled with the unpredictability of special operations training. After completing the evaluation process, candidates were divided into 4 groups of 6 people each. Lena found herself assigned to Team Charlie, alongside 5 male operators whose credentials were impressive even by special operations standards. Her teammates included Marcus Webb, a Marine Force reconnaissance veteran with 3 combat deployments, James Park, an Army Ranger who had served in both Iraq and Afghanistan, David Thompson, a Navy explosive ordnance disposal specialist, Carlos Mendez, an Air Force pararescue operator, and Alex Chun, a Navy intelligence specialist with advanced language capabilities. Interesting group, observed Webb as they received their first team assignment. At 31 years old, he was the senior member and had been selected as team leader for initial exercises. We've got good diversity in backgrounds and experience. Their first challenge was deceptively simple, a 10-mile run through the hills surrounding the training compound, carrying 40-pound rucksacks and maintaining a pace that would challenge even well-conditioned athletes. The route included several steep climbs and descents designed to test both physical endurance and mental determination. Lena had been preparing for this type of challenge for months, gradually increasing her load and distance until 40 pounds felt manageable over extended periods. But she also understood that physical preparation was only part of the equation. Selection was designed to identify candidates who could maintain performance standards even when exhausted, stressed, and operating on minimal sleep. The team moved out at a pace that felt sustainable but challenging. Webb set the initial rhythm, with the other team members adjusting their positions based on individual strengths and the terrain requirements. Lena found herself naturally settling into the 3rd position, where she could monitor the team's overall performance while maintaining her own pace. "How's everyone feeling?" Webb called back after the first mile. "Good to go," responded Park, though his breathing was already showing signs of exertion. The hills around the training compound were notorious for breaking candidates who had underestimated the cumulative effects of carrying heavy loads over challenging terrain. The combination of steep gradients, loose footing, and California heat created conditions that quickly separated well-prepared candidates from those who had relied solely on general fitness. By the 3rd mile, the team had developed a rhythm that played to each member's strengths. Thompson and Mendez, who possessed excellent endurance capabilities, moved to the front to help maintain pace during uphill sections. Chun and Park, who were lighter and more agile, took over leadership during technical descents where balance and foot placement were critical. Lena found herself appreciating the collaborative nature of the exercise. Unlike individual training, where success depended entirely on personal performance, team challenges required constant communication and mutual support. When Park began struggling during a particularly steep climb around mile 5, the entire team adjusted their pace and positioning to ensure he could maintain contact. "This is about more than just finishing," Webb observed during a brief rest stop. "They're watching how we work together under stress." He was right. Throughout the course, instructors positioned at key points were taking detailed notes on team dynamics, leadership rotation, and individual responses to challenge. Candidates who focus solely on their own performance often missed opportunities to demonstrate the collaborative skills essential for special operations missions. The final 3 miles included a section known as Heartbreak Ridge, a nearly vertical climb that had broken numerous candidates over the years. The loose sand and rock made every step uncertain, while the steep angle forced candidates to use their hands for balance while still managing their heavy rucksacks. One step at a time, Lena called out as the team began the ascent. She had learned this approach during mountain training in Colorado, where focusing on immediate challenges prevented the mental fatigue that came from contemplating the entire distance ahead. Thompson reached the top first, immediately turning to help his teammates with the final few yards. It was exactly the kind of behavior that instructors valued: technical competence combined with genuine concern for team success. One by one, the rest of Team Charlie completed the climb, each member taking a moment to assist the next person up. The final descent was almost as challenging as the climb, requiring careful control to avoid injury on the loose surface. Lena's Montana upbringing proved valuable here. She had spent countless hours hiking in similar terrain while hunting with her father and brothers. The skills transferred directly to military operations, where safe movement through challenging terrain often meant the difference between mission success and failure. Team Charlie crossed the finish line together, having maintained their integrity as a unit throughout the entire exercise. Their time was competitive, but not exceptional, exactly what Webb had hoped for. Standing out too early in selection could attract unwanted attention from instructors who were always looking for candidates who needed additional testing. "Good work, everyone," announced Instructor Chief Petty Officer Rick Santos as the team assembled for their after-action review. Time was acceptable, team dynamics were solid, and nobody required medical attention. That's a successful first exercise. Santos had been an instructor for 5 years, during which time he had seen every type of candidate personality and performance pattern. His job was to identify individuals who possessed the rare combination of technical skills, mental resilience, and emotional intelligence needed for special operations missions. "Gray," Santos called out, "step forward." Lena felt her heart rate increase slightly as she moved to the front of the formation. Being singled out early in selection could indicate either exceptional performance or significant problems that required immediate attention. You kept a steady pace throughout the exercise and provided consistent support to teammates when needed. That suggests good situational awareness and appropriate priorities. Continue that approach. Relief washed over Lena as she returned to her position in formation. Positive feedback was rare in selection, and receiving it after the first exercise suggested that her preparation and approach were appropriate for the challenges ahead. The afternoon brought classroom instruction on special operations principles, covering topics that range from mission planning basics to the historical evolution of unconventional warfare. Lena found herself engaged by the material, which connected directly to her experiences in Afghanistan and provided context for understanding how individual skills contributed to larger strategic objectives. Special operations success depends on 3 critical factors, explained Commander Patricia Reynolds, the academic program director. First, technical excellence in core skills like marksmanship, explosives, and communications. Second, the ability to adapt quickly when situations change unexpectedly. Third, the capacity to work effectively with diverse teams under extreme stress. Reynolds had served multiple tours with various special operations units before transitioning to an educational role. Her perspective bridged the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application, helping candidates understand how classroom concepts translated to real-world operations. "Who can give me an example of adaptive thinking from their own experience?" Reynolds asked. Lena raised her hand, having prepared for exactly this type of question during her weeks of preparation. "During my second deployment, our overwatch position was compromised when enemy forces began advancing from an unexpected direction. I had to relocate my position while maintaining fire support for a patrol under contact. The key was recognizing that the original plan wasn't working and implementing an alternative quickly enough to remain effective. Good example. Reynolds acknowledged. What factors did you consider when choosing a new position? Fields of fire to support the patrol, concealment from enemy observation, and an escape route if the position became untenable. I also had to coordinate with the patrol leader to ensure they understood my new location. Reynolds nodded approvingly. That demonstrates the kind of multidimensional thinking that special operations requires. You had to balance immediate tactical requirements with longer-term safety considerations while maintaining communication under stress. The academic session continued with case studies drawn from actual special operations missions, each designed to illustrate principles that candidates would apply during practical exercises later in the program. Lena took extensive notes, recognizing that the information would be tested both through written examinations and practical application. Evening brought the first taste of what would become a regular feature of selection: extended training periods that pushed candidates beyond normal limits. Team Charlie was assigned to weapons maintenance training that continued until nearly midnight, requiring them to disassemble, clean, and reassemble various firearms while exhausted from the day's physical challenges. Attention to detail is critical. Observe Instructor Petty Officer First Class Maria Gonzalez as she supervised the exercise. In combat, a poorly maintained weapon can result in mission failure and loss of life. We need to know that you can maintain standards even when you're tired and stressed. Lena found the weapon's maintenance challenging but manageable. Her background in gunsmithing provided advantages in understanding mechanical tolerances and assembly procedures, while her military experience had taught her the importance of systematic approaches to complex tasks. "Gray, you're moving through these procedures efficiently," noted Gonzalez during a quality inspection. "Where did you develop those skills?" "My father taught me basic gunsmithing, and I've continued learning through military courses and independent study. I believe in understanding every aspect of my equipment." Good philosophy. Maintain that attention to detail throughout selection. The exercise concluded after midnight, leaving candidates with barely 5 hours of sleep before the next day's activities began. Lena had anticipated this type of schedule and had been gradually reducing her sleep requirements during preparation, but she still felt the effects of accumulated fatigue. Back in her temporary quarters, she took a few minutes to review the day's events and mentally prepare for tomorrow's challenges. The first day had gone well, but she understood that selection was designed to become progressively more difficult as instructors identified each candidate's weaknesses and applied targeted stress. Her teammates had performed competently, and the team dynamics were developing positively. Webb's leadership was steady and inclusive, while the other team members were contributing their specialized knowledge effectively. If Team Charlie could maintain this level of cooperation and performance, they had a good chance of succeeding together. But Lena also knew that team composition would change throughout selection as candidates were eliminated and groups were reconfigured to test different combinations of personalities and capabilities. The instructors were constantly evaluating not just individual performance, but also how each person influenced overall team effectiveness. Sleep came quickly despite the stress and excitement of the day. Lena had learned during her deployments that rest was a tactical necessity, not a luxury. Her body's ability to recover quickly from physical and mental challenges would be tested repeatedly over the coming weeks, and proper rest management was essential for maintaining performance standards. The second day began with a 0430 wake-up call, followed immediately by physical training that included calisthenics, running, and swimming. The pool portion of training was particularly challenging for some candidates, as special operations requirements included advanced water survival skills that went far beyond basic swimming ability. Lena had been a competitive swimmer in high school, and her stroke technique was efficient enough to handle the distance and time requirements comfortably. But she noticed that several candidates were struggling with the combination of distance, speed, and precision required for the exercise. "Treading water for 20 minutes while wearing combat gear," announced Instructor Chief Santos. "This tests your ability to remain calm and conserve energy in potentially life-threatening situations. The exercise simulated conditions that special operations personnel might face if forced to abandon aircraft or watercraft in hostile territory. Success required not just physical capability, but also the mental discipline to remain relaxed while experiencing significant discomfort and stress. Lena settled into a comfortable treading pattern that balanced energy conservation with the need to maintain proper position in the water. Around her, she could hear the breathing patterns of her fellow candidates, some remaining calm while others showed signs of increasing anxiety. "Relax," she called quietly to Park, who was positioned nearby and obviously struggling with a combination of physical exertion and water survival skills. "Find a rhythm that works for you and stick with it." Park nodded gratefully, adjusting his technique based on Lena's suggestion. The improvement was immediate and noticeable, demonstrating the value of peer support during challenging exercises. After 15 minutes, several candidates were showing serious signs of fatigue. Their movements became less efficient, and their breathing patterns indicated increasing stress levels. Instructors positioned around the pool edge were taking careful notes, evaluating each person's response to mounting pressure. "Time," Santos announced at exactly 20 minutes. The pool exercise was followed by an immediate transition to land-based activities, giving candidates no time to rest or recover. This type of rapid transition was designed to simulate operational conditions where personnel might face multiple challenges in quick succession without opportunities for normal recovery periods. Team Charlie's assignment was a navigation exercise that required them to locate a series of checkpoints scattered throughout a 10-square-mile area of rough terrain. They were provided with map, compass, and GPS device, but instructors had emphasized that electronic equipment could fail and navigation skills needed to be based primarily on traditional methods. "Time limit is 4 hours, Santos informed the team. "You'll be evaluated on accuracy, efficiency, and teamwork." Questions. Webb studied the map carefully, identifying potential routes, and considering factors like terrain difficulty, checkpoint sequence, and available cover. His experience with similar exercises was evident in his systematic approach to mission planning. "I recommend we hit checkpoints 1, 3, and 5 first," Webb suggested after consulting with the team. "That gives us the most efficient route, while providing flexibility if we encounter problems." Lena examined the proposed route, applying her own navigation experience from hunting and military training. "Agreed, but I suggest we modify the approach to checkpoint 3. The direct route crosses an exposed ridgeline that could slow us down significantly." She pointed to an alternative path that added distance but avoided the challenging terrain. "This route is longer but provides better concealment and more predictable footing. The time difference should be minimal." Park and Thompson studied both options before agreeing with Lena's assessment. The collaborative planning process demonstrated exactly the kind of team decision-making that instructors valued in candidates. The navigation exercise proved challenging but manageable for Team Charlie. Their preparation and teamwork allowed them to locate all required checkpoints within the time limit while maintaining good spacing and communication throughout the movement. Other teams were not as successful, with several failing to locate all checkpoints and one requiring emergency assistance after becoming lost in the rough terrain. "Solid performance," Santos noted during the after-action review. "Good planning, efficient execution, and appropriate adaptation when you encountered unexpected obstacles. That's exactly what we're looking for." The positive feedback was encouraging, but Lena understood that selection would become significantly more difficult as the program progressed. Each exercise was designed to identify specific capabilities and limitations, with later challenges targeting areas where individual candidates or teams had shown potential weaknesses. Evening brought another late-night training session, this time focused on combat medical skills. Candidates were required to demonstrate proficiency in treating various types of trauma injuries while working in low-light conditions and dealing with simulated stress factors. In special operations, Everyone is a medic, explained Navy Hospital Corpsman First Class Jennifer Park, the medical training instructor. You need to be able to treat serious injuries under conditions where evacuation may not be immediately available. The training scenarios were realistic and disturbing, involving mannequins with simulated injuries that looked disturbingly real in the dim lighting. Candidates had to diagnose problems, implement appropriate treatments, and coordinate evacuation procedures while dealing with time pressure and performance anxiety. Lena's first scenario involved treating a simulated gunshot wound to the chest, requiring her to establish an airway, control bleeding, and stabilize the patient for transport. Her movements were steady and systematic, reflecting the combat medical training she had received during her Marine career. Good technique, observed Corpsman Park. You're maintaining composure and following proper procedures even under stress. That's exactly what we need in real situations. The medical training continued past midnight, leaving candidates exhausted but more confident in their ability to handle emergency situations. For Lena, the exercises reinforced her understanding that special operations required proficiency in areas far beyond her primary specialty of marksmanship. As she finally reached her quarters for a few hours of sleep, Lena reflected on how selection was already changing her understanding of what it meant to be a complete military operator. The Marines had given her excellent training in her specialized field, but special operations demanded expertise across a much broader range of skills and situations. Tomorrow would bring new challenges designed to test different aspects of candidate capabilities. Lena felt confident in her preparation and performance so far, but she also understood that the real tests were still ahead. Selection was designed to become progressively more difficult until only the most capable and determined candidates remained. The competition was fierce, and failure remained a constant possibility. But for the first time since arriving at the training compound, Lena began to believe that she might actually have what it took to succeed in one of the military's most demanding programs. Week 3 of selection arrived with a reputation that preceded it among both instructors and candidates. Known unofficially as Hell Week, this period was designed to push remaining candidates beyond their breaking points, identifying those who possessed the mental resilience necessary for special operations missions where failure was not an option. Lena woke at 0400 to the sound of explosions outside her barracks. Through her window, she could see instructors firing blank rounds and throwing smoke grenades to create an atmosphere of controlled chaos. This was the beginning of a 120-hour period during which candidates would receive minimal sleep while facing increasingly difficult challenges designed to test their limits. "Get up! Get up! Get up!" screamed Instructor Chief Santos as he burst through the barracks door, his voice barely audible over the sound of simulated gunfire. "You have 2 minutes to be in formation outside, full combat gear." The sudden transition from sleep to high-intensity activity was jarring, but Lena had anticipated this moment for weeks. Her gear was pre-positioned for rapid deployment, and she was dressed and moving within 30 seconds of the wake-up call. Around her, other candidates scrambled to prepare themselves while dealing with the disorientation of smoke and noise. Outside, the entire selection class, now reduced to 16 candidates after a week of eliminations, assembled in formation while instructors continued their psychological pressure campaign. The combination of darkness, smoke, and explosive noises created an environment designed to simulate the confusion and stress of combat operations. "Welcome to Hell Week," announced Master Chief Morrison, his voice cutting through the chaos. "For the next 5 days, you will discover whether you possess the mental and physical capabilities required for special operations. Some of you will succeed. Most will not." The statistics were sobering, but accurate. Historical data showed that fewer than 20% of candidates who entered Hell Week successfully completed the entire program. The challenges ahead would test every aspect of their preparation and determine who possessed the rare combination of skills and determination needed for elite military units. Team Charlie had been reconfigured twice since the beginning of selection, with original members either eliminated or reassigned to test different group dynamics. Lena now found herself working with Marcus Webb, who remained from the original team, Sarah Kim, a Navy intelligence specialist who had joined the group after her previous team was dissolved, Tony Rodriguez, an Army Special Forces medic with extensive combat experience, and Jake Morrison, a Marine Force reconnaissance operator whose technical skills had impressed instructors throughout the program. First challenge is a 6-mile ocean swim, announced Instructor Chief Santos. Full gear, buddy teams, time limit of 3 hours. The water temperature is 58 degrees, and visibility is limited due to fog. The ocean swim was notorious among selection candidates, having eliminated more people than any other single challenge in the program's history. The combination of distance, cold water, and limited visibility created conditions where even small mistakes could result in hypothermia or drowning. Lena paired with Morrison for the buddy team requirement, recognizing that their combined experience would provide mutual support during the challenging swim. Morrison's background in marine reconnaissance included extensive water operations, while Lena's competitive swimming experience gave her confidence in her stroke technique and endurance capabilities. Stay close and communicate constantly, Morrison advised as they entered the frigid Pacific Ocean. The cold will affect your thinking long before you realize it's happening. The initial shock of the cold water was intense, causing involuntary gasping and muscle tension that threatened to disrupt their swimming rhythm. Lena forced herself to relax and establish a sustainable stroke pattern while maintaining contact with Morrison through the murky water. After the first mile, the effects of cold water immersion began affecting both swimmers. Their movements became less efficient as muscle function deteriorated, and communication became more difficult as speech was impaired by shivering and fatigue. But Lena had prepared for these conditions through cold water training during her preparation period, gradually building tolerance for extended exposure. "How you doing?" Morrison called out during a brief rest stop at the 2-mile checkpoint. "Cold, but functional," Lena replied through chattering teeth. "You?" "Same. Let's keep moving before we lose too much body heat." The middle section of the swim proved most challenging, as the cumulative effects of cold water exposure and physical exertion began affecting their ability to navigate and maintain proper stroke technique. Visibility remained limited, requiring constant attention to compass headings and landmark identification to stay on course. Around mile 4, Lena noticed that Morrison was beginning to struggle with the effects of hypothermia. His stroke rate had decreased significantly, and his responses to communication were becoming delayed. She moved closer to provide additional support while maintaining her own performance levels. "Jake, talk to me," she called out. "How are you feeling?" Morrison's response was slurred and confused, indicating that cold water exposure was affecting his cognitive function. Lena made the decision to take primary responsibility for navigation and pace control while keeping Morrison moving toward the finish line. The final 2 miles required all of Lena's mental discipline and physical capabilities. She had to maintain her own performance while providing constant encouragement and guidance to Morrison, who was struggling to maintain consciousness in the frigid water. Her competitive swimming background proved invaluable, as she understood how to manage energy expenditure over extended distances. "One more mile, Jake. Stay with me," she encouraged as they passed the 5-mile marker. Morrison responded with a weak nod, his movements becoming increasingly uncoordinated as hypothermia advanced. Lena adjusted her position to provide physical support while continuing to navigate toward the finish point. They reached the beach after 2 hours and 47 minutes, well within the time limit, but with Morrison requiring immediate medical attention for mild hypothermia. Lena helped get him to the warming station before collapsing herself, her body finally succumbing to the effects of cold water exposure and extended exertion. "Outstanding performance, Gray," said Instructor Chief Santos as medical personnel attended to both swimmers. "You maintained mission focus while providing life-saving support to your teammate." That demonstrates exactly the kind of leadership and selflessness we're looking for. The praise was gratifying, but Lena was more concerned with Morrison's condition than with her own performance evaluation. She remained with him until medical personnel confirmed that his hypothermia was mild and would not require hospital treatment. "Thanks for getting me through that," Morrison said once he had warmed sufficiently to speak clearly. "I don't think I would have made it without your help." "That's what teammates do," Lena replied simply. "You would have done the same for me." The ocean swim was immediately followed by a transition to land-based activities, giving candidates no opportunity to rest or fully recover from their ordeal. This type of seamless transition between challenges was designed to simulate operational conditions where special operations personnel might face multiple crises without normal recovery periods. Team Charlie's next assignment was a 20-mile ruck march through mountainous terrain, carrying 60-pound packs and navigating to a series of checkpoints within a strict time limit. The route included several thousand feet of elevation gain and loss, with rocky terrain that would challenge even well-rested and properly equipped hikers. Time limit is 8 hours, announced Instructor Petty Officer Gonzalez. You'll be evaluated on individual performance and team coordination. Medical support will be available, but requesting assistance may result in program elimination. The ruck march began in late afternoon, with the team still dealing with fatigue and mild hypothermia from their ocean swim. Lena's legs felt unsteady during the initial miles, and she had to focus carefully on foot placement to avoid injury on the uneven terrain. Webb established the initial pace, drawing on his extensive experience with long-distance movement under load. His leadership style remained calm and systematic, providing stability for teammates who were struggling with the accumulated effects of multiple challenges. "Steady rhythm," Webb called back to the team. "Save energy for the hills ahead." The first major climb began around mile 5, a steep ascent that gained nearly 1,500 feet of elevation over 2 miles of switchback trail. Lena found her rhythm despite her fatigue, drawing on techniques she had learned during mountain training and hunting expeditions in Montana. Kim began struggling during the climb, her smaller frame making it difficult to carry the heavy pack efficiently over extended distances. Rodriguez moved to assist her, taking some equipment from her pack while providing verbal encouragement to maintain her morale. "We succeed together or we fail together," Rodriguez reminded the team. "Nobody gets left behind." The collaborative approach to team challenges had become Team Charlie's signature characteristic, distinguishing them from other groups that focus primarily on individual performance. Instructors had noted this pattern repeatedly, recognizing it as an indicator of the kind of unit cohesion essential for special operations missions. At mile 10, the team reached the highest point on the route, providing a brief respite from climbing and an opportunity to assess their progress. Their time was competitive, but not exceptional, exactly what Webb had planned to avoid unwanted attention from instructors looking for candidates who needed additional testing. "How's everyone feeling?" Webb asked during a brief rest stop. "Tired, but functional," Morrison replied, having recovered sufficiently from his hypothermia to maintain pace with the team. "Good. We're halfway done, and we're on schedule. Let's keep moving." The descent proved almost as challenging as the climb, requiring careful control to avoid injury on loose rock and steep gradients. Lena's mountain experience again proved valuable, as she understood how to manage momentum and foot placement on challenging terrain. Around mile 15, Kim began showing signs of serious fatigue, her pace slowing significantly despite Rodriguez's continued assistance. The team faced a difficult decision: continue at their current pace and risk leaving Kim behind, or slow down and potentially miss their time requirement. "We're not leaving anyone," Webb announced without hesitation. "Adjust formation and pace to keep Kim with us." It was exactly the kind of leadership decision that instructors hoped to see, placing team integrity above individual achievement. The team reconfigured their movement pattern, with stronger members taking additional equipment and everyone adjusting their pace to accommodate Kim's limitations. The strategy worked. Team Charlie completed the ruck march in 7 hours and 38 minutes, well within the time limit and with all team members finishing together. Their performance impressed instructors who had seen many teams fragment under similar pressure. Excellent teamwork, observed Master Chief Morrison during their after-action review. You faced a difficult situation and made the right decision to maintain team integrity. That demonstrates the kind of values we expect from special operations personnel. But Hell Week was far from over. The Ruck March concluded at 0200 hours, followed immediately by weapons training that continued until dawn. Candidates were required to demonstrate proficiency with various firearms while dealing with extreme fatigue and limited visibility. Lena's marksmanship background provided advantages during this exercise, as her muscle memory and training allowed her to maintain accuracy even while exhausted. She consistently hit targets that other candidates missed, drawing positive attention from instructors who specialized in advanced shooting techniques. Gray, your shooting remains consistent despite obvious fatigue, noted instructor Chief Santos. That suggests solid fundamental skills and proper mental discipline. Thank you, Chief. I've trained extensively under various stress conditions. It shows. Maintain those standards. Dawn brought no respite from the relentless pace of challenges. Team Charlie was assigned to a combat simulation exercise that required them to assault a fortified position while dealing with simulated enemy fire, casualty evacuation requirements, and time pressure. The exercise took place at a mock village constructed specifically for training purposes, complete with multi-story buildings, underground tunnels, and defensive positions that replicated conditions faced during urban combat operations. Teams were equipped with training weapons that fired marking rounds, allowing instructors to assess accuracy and tactical decision-making under realistic conditions. Mission is to clear the village and secure the target building, announced Instructor Petty Officer Gonzalez. Enemy forces are present, casualties are likely, and time is critical. Questions. Webb quickly assigned roles based on each team member's strengths and experience. Lena was designated as the team's designated marksman, responsible for providing precision fire support during the assault. Morrison would handle explosives and breaching operations, while Rodriguez served as the primary medic. Kim was assigned to communications and intelligence gathering. Lena, I need you positioned where you can cover our assault route and provide overwatch during building clearing, Webb instructed. Priority targets are enemy personnel who pose immediate threats to team movement. The simulation began with a realistic firefight as Team Charlie advanced toward their objective. Lena quickly identified a suitable shooting position on high ground overlooking the village, providing clear fields of fire while maintaining good concealment from enemy observation. Through her rifle scope, she could see enemy role players positioned throughout the village, some obvious and others well concealed. Her job was to neutralize threats that could interfere with her team's movement while avoiding civilian targets mixed among the combatants. Contact front. Webb radioed as the team began their assault. 2 enemy personnel in the first building. Lena acquired the targets through her scope, confirming they were legitimate threats before engaging with precise shots that eliminated both enemies. Her accuracy under pressure impressed the watching instructors, who were evaluating not just shooting skills, but also decision-making and target identification. Good shooting, Lena. Keep us covered. The urban assault continued for 45 minutes, with Team Charlie methodically clearing buildings while Lena provided overwatch and precision fire support. Her shooting remained consistent throughout the exercise, with a hit rate that exceeded 90% despite challenging conditions. Target building secured, Webb reported as the exercise concluded. Objective complete. The after-action review highlighted several areas where Team Charlie had excelled, particularly their coordination between assault and sniper elements. Lena's shooting had been exceptional, but more importantly, her tactical decision-making had demonstrated understanding of how precision fire is integrated with infantry operations. Gray, your performance during the urban assault was outstanding, Santos noted. You maintained effective fire support while making good decisions about target priority and engagement parameters. That's exactly what we need from our designated marksman. But the challenges continued relentlessly. Team Charlie was given 30 minutes to eat and drink before transitioning to their next assignment, a 15-hour patrol exercise that would test their ability to maintain performance standards while operating on minimal sleep and dealing with accumulated fatigue. The patrol began at noon on their fourth day of Hell Week, with temperatures reaching nearly 100 degrees in the desert training area. Candidates were required to carry full combat loads while navigating to multiple objectives and conducting various tactical missions. Lena found herself struggling with the heat and dehydration, despite her efforts to maintain proper fluid intake throughout Hell Week. The combination of minimal sleep, accumulated physical stress, and extreme temperatures was beginning to affect even her well-conditioned body. "Drink more water," Rodriguez advised during a brief halt. As the team medic, he was monitoring everyone's physical condition and recognized early signs of heat exhaustion. "You're showing symptoms of dehydration." "I'm drinking constantly," Lena replied, but she followed his advice and consumed additional fluids while applying cooling techniques she had learned during desert training. The patrol exercise included multiple challenges designed to test different aspects of special operations capabilities. Team Charlie was required to conduct reconnaissance missions, establish communications with distant units, treat simulated casualties, and engage enemy forces while maintaining tactical movement through challenging terrain. Each task was evaluated separately, with instructors scoring teams on technical proficiency, decision-making, and leadership rotation. The cumulative effect was exhausting, requiring candidates to maintain high-performance standards across multiple disciplines while dealing with extreme physical and mental stress. Around hour 10 of the patrol, Kim collapsed from heat exhaustion despite the team's efforts to monitor her condition. Rodriguez immediately began treatment while the team established security and called for medical evacuation. It was a sobering reminder that Hell Week pushed candidates beyond normal human limits. "Is she going to be okay?" Lena asked as medical personnel arrived to treat Kim. "She'll recover, but her selection is over," Rodriguez replied. "Heat casualties aren't allowed to continue." Kim's elimination reduced Team Charlie to 4 members, requiring them to redistribute responsibilities and adjust their tactical procedures for the remaining exercises. The loss was felt not just tactically, but emotionally, as Kim had become an integral part of their team dynamics. "We keep going," Webb announced as Kim was evacuated. "She would want us to finish what we started." The final hours of the patrol exercise tested everyone's limits. Lena found herself operating on pure determination, her body pushed far beyond what she had previously considered possible. But she maintained her performance standards, particularly during shooting exercises where her accuracy remained consistently high. "Outstanding performance throughout Hell Week," Master Chief Morrison announced as the final exercise concluded. Team Charlie demonstrated exceptional teamwork, technical proficiency, and mental resilience. "You should be proud of what you've accomplished." But even Hell Week was not the end of selection. The remaining weeks would bring different challenges designed to test specialized skills and assess candidates' suitability for specific roles within special operations units. Lena had survived the most notorious portion of the program, but significant challenges remained ahead. As she finally reached her quarters for the first full night's sleep in 5 days, Lena reflected on how much she had changed during Hell Week. She had discovered reserves of mental and physical strength that she hadn't known existed, while also learning to function effectively as part of a team under extreme conditions. The mirror showed someone who looked older and more weathered than the Marine who had arrived at selection 8 weeks earlier. But more importantly, she felt different, more confident in her abilities, and more certain that she belonged among the elite warriors she had dreamed of joining. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, Lena allowed herself to feel proud of what she had accomplished. She had not only survived Hell Week, but had excelled during some of its most difficult moments. The journey toward becoming a Navy SEAL was far from over, but she was no longer questioning whether she had what it took to succeed. Sleep came instantly, her exhausted body finally able to rest after 5 days of relentless testing. In her dreams, she was back in Montana, hunting with her father in mountains that seemed somehow connected to the challenges she had just overcome. The lessons he had taught her about patience, persistence, and mental toughness had carried her through Hell Week and would continue to guide her through whatever challenges lay ahead. 8 months later, Petty Officer First Class Lena Gray stood on the deck of the USS Bataan, watching the coastline of Somalia emerge from the pre-dawn darkness. Her transformation from Marine Corps sniper to Navy SEAL had been complete for 3 months, but this would be her first operational deployment with SEAL Team 7, a mission that would test everything she had learned during the grueling selection and training process. The intelligence briefing had been sobering. American hostages were being held in a fortified compound 30 kilometers inland from Mogadishu, captured during a humanitarian aid convoy that had been ambushed by al-Shabaab militants. The hostages included 2 doctors, a journalist, and a State Department official whose capture had elevated the incident to national security priority. Final equipment check in 10 minutes, announced Lieutenant Commander Rick Martinez as the assault team prepared for insertion. Team 7 had been reconfigured for this mission, with Lena serving as the primary sniper in support of a 12-man assault element led by Martinez himself. The past 8 months had been transformative for Lena in ways she hadn't anticipated. Completing SEAL selection had been only the beginning of her journey toward operational readiness. Advanced training had included specialized courses in combat diving, high-altitude parachuting, advanced marksmanship, explosives, foreign languages, and cultural awareness, each designed to create operators capable of succeeding in any environment. Her role as the team's designated marksman had evolved beyond simple shooting skills. Modern special operations required snipers who could serve as intelligence gatherers, forward observers, and precision engagement specialists capable of making split-second decisions that could determine mission success or failure. "Gray, what's your equipment status?" asked Master Chief Morrison, who now served as Team 7's senior enlisted advisor. "All systems green, Master Chief. Primary weapon zeroed and confirmed, backup systems checked, communications operational." Lena's response reflected the systematic approach that had become second nature during her SEAL training. Her primary weapon for this mission was a customized MK-20 sniper support rifle chambered in 7.62 mm NATO, equipped with advanced optics and sound suppression systems. The rifle represented the latest evolution in military precision weapons, but Lena had spent hundreds of hours training with it until its capabilities became an extension of her own skills. The insertion would be conducted via fast-rope deployment from MH-60M helicopters, with the assault team establishing a perimeter around the target compound, while Lena moved to an overwatch position on high ground approximately 800 meters away. From there, she would provide reconnaissance information and precision fire support as needed. "Weather conditions are optimal," reported the mission meteorologist. "Minimal wind, good visibility, temperature in the mid-70s. Ideal conditions for precision shooting." But Lena knew that conditions could change rapidly in operational environments, and she had prepared for multiple scenarios including degraded weather, equipment malfunctions, and unexpected enemy resistance. Her training had emphasized adaptability and the ability to maintain effectiveness even when original plans proved inadequate. At 0330 hours, the helicopters lifted off from the Bataan, beginning a low-level flight that would take them to their insertion point while avoiding Somali radar installations and potential surface-to-air missile threats. Lena felt the familiar combination of anticipation and calm focus that preceded combat operations. 15 minutes to insertion, announced the helicopter crew chief over the internal communication system. Around her, the other members of Team 7 made final preparations, their movements reflecting years of training and operational experience. These were proven warriors who had served together through multiple deployments, and Lena felt honored to be included among them for such a critical mission. The insertion itself was flawless, with both helicopters depositing their teams at the designated landing zone before departing to await extraction calls. Team 7 immediately established security, while Lena began moving toward her overwatch position, using night vision equipment and GPS navigation to traverse the rocky terrain. Her movement to the sniper position required 45 minutes of careful travel through hostile territory where enemy patrols were known to operate. Lena used techniques learned during specialized infiltration training, moving silently and remaining invisible to potential observers while covering nearly 2 kilometers of challenging terrain. The overwatch position provided excellent fields of fire covering the target compound and surrounding area. Through her rifle scope, Lena could see the 3-story building where intelligence indicated the hostages were being held, along with guard positions and potential escape routes that enemies might use. Overwatch in position, she radioed to Martinez. I have clear observation of the target building and surrounding area. Copy, Overwatch. Report enemy activity. Lena spent the next 30 minutes conducting detailed reconnaissance of the target area, identifying guard positions, patrol patterns, and structural features that would affect the assault team's approach. Her observations would be critical for mission success, as real-time intelligence often differed significantly from pre-mission briefings. I count 12 enemy personnel visible around the compound, she reported. 6 in fixed positions, 6 mobile. 2 guards on the rooftop, 3 at ground level around the main building, 1 at the vehicle compound. Mobile patrols are following predictable patterns. Outstanding, Overwatch. Continue observation and report any changes. The assault team began their approach at 0515 hours, using concealment provided by pre-dawn darkness and terrain features. Lena tracked their movement through her scope while simultaneously monitoring enemy positions for any signs that their approach had been detected. Movement at the front gate, she reported as 2 guards began what appeared to be a routine position change. 2 personnel moving from a main building toward the perimeter. They appear to be conducting normal activities, not responding to threats. Martinez acknowledged her report while continuing the team's careful advance toward their assault positions. The plan called for simultaneous entry from multiple directions, with Lena providing overwatch and engaging any enemies who threatened the assault or attempted to harm the hostages. At 0530 hours, everything changed. One of the enemy sentries spotted something that alerted him to the team's presence, and he began reaching for his radio to sound an alarm. Lena had perhaps 2 seconds to make a decision that would determine whether the mission succeeded or failed catastrophically. Her crosshairs settled on the enemy sentry just as he raised his radio toward his mouth. The range was 734 meters according to her scope's rangefinder, a challenging but manageable shot under the current conditions. Lena's breathing slowed to the natural respiratory pause she had used thousands of times during training. The suppressed rifle barely made a sound as it fired, and the enemy sentry collapsed before he could transmit his warning. But Lena's job was far from over, as the assault was now beginning, and other enemies would need to be engaged to protect the advancing team. Threat eliminated, she reported calmly. Assault team, you're clear to continue. Copy, Overwatch. Good shooting. The assault unfolded with precision that reflected months of training and preparation. Martinez's team breached the compound's defenses while Lena engaged 3 additional enemies who attempted to reinforce the building's defenders. Her shooting was flawless, with each target neutralized before they could pose a threat to the assault team or hostages. Inside the building, Team 7 encountered fierce resistance from militants who had prepared for exactly this type of rescue attempt. The fighting was intense, but brief, with the SEAL team's superior training and equipment proving decisive in close-quarters combat. Hostages located and secured, Martinez reported 15 minutes after the assault began. 4 American nationals, all alive and in good condition. Compound is secure. But the mission was far from over. Intelligence indicated that enemy reinforcements were moving toward the compound from several directions, and the team needed to extract quickly before being overwhelmed by superior numbers. Overwatch, I need you to cover our extraction route, Martinez ordered. Multiple enemy vehicles approaching from the east and south. Lena adjusted her position to engage the approaching threats, identifying 3 vehicles carrying what appear to be at least 15 additional militants. Her job was to disrupt their advance long enough for the assault team and hostages to reach the extraction landing zone. The first vehicle appeared at 900 meters, moving rapidly along a dirt road that would bring it within small arms range of the extraction site in less than 5 minutes. Lena's first shot disabled the engine, causing the vehicle to stop and forcing its occupants to dismount and continue on foot. The second and third vehicles attempted to advance using different routes, but Lena's position allowed her to engage both with devastating accuracy. Her shots eliminated key personnel and disabled vehicles, significantly degrading the enemy's ability to interfere with the extraction. Excellent work, Overwatch, Martinez called as the team, and hostages moved toward the landing zone. Your shooting is keeping them off our backs. The extraction helicopters arrived precisely on schedule, landing in a cloud of dust while Team 7 loaded the hostages and prepared for departure. Lena maintained her Overwatch position until the last possible moment, ensuring that no enemies could threaten the helicopters during their vulnerable loading phase. Overwatch, time to move, Martinez called as the helicopters prepared for takeoff. We're leaving in 30 seconds with or without you. Lena abandoned her position and sprinted toward the landing zone, covering the 200-meter distance in less than 40 seconds while carrying her full equipment load. She reached the helicopter just as it lifted off, with Martinez pulling her aboard as they climbed away from the hostile area. Outstanding mission, everyone, Martinez announced over the helicopter's communication system as they flew toward the safety of the USS Bataan. Professional execution under difficult conditions. Gray, your shooting was exceptional. The praise from her team leader meant more to Lena than any formal recognition could have provided. She had proven herself under the most demanding conditions possible, demonstrating that her place among the SEALs was earned through performance rather than lowered standards. Back aboard the Bataan, the successful mission was debriefed in detail, with particular attention paid to lessons learned and areas for improvement. The hostages were safe, enemy casualties had been significant, and Team 7 had suffered no injuries during the operation. Gray's performance was exemplary throughout the mission, Martinez reported to the commanding officer. Her reconnaissance information was accurate and timely, her shooting was flawless under pressure, and her tactical decision-making contributed directly to mission success. Later that evening, as the ship sailed away from the Somali coast, Lena stood again on the deck where her journey had begun 12 hours earlier. But she felt fundamentally different now. No longer a newcomer trying to prove herself, but a proven operator who had earned her place among America's elite warriors. Master Chief Morrison joined her at the rail, looking out at the stars that were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I belong here," Lena replied honestly. "For the first time since I started this journey, I feel like I've truly earned my place on the team." Morrison nodded approvingly. That shot on the first sentry was textbook perfect. 2 seconds later, and the whole mission could have gone sideways. You made the right decision and executed flawlessly. Thank you, Master Chief. It feels good to finally contribute at the level I've been training for. This was just your first mission, Morrison reminded her. There will be many more, and some of them will be even more challenging than this one. But today proved that you have what it takes to succeed in this business. Over the following weeks, word of the Somalia mission spread throughout the special operations community. The successful rescue of 4 American hostages with no friendly casualties was recognized as a textbook example of precision planning and execution, with particular praise for the sniper support that had prevented enemy interference. For Lena, the mission represented a turning point in her military career. She had successfully transitioned from Marine Corps sniper to Navy SEAL, proving that gender was irrelevant when measuring capability and determination. Her example opened doors for other women who aspire to serve in special operations roles, demonstrating that success was possible through dedication and performance. 6 months later, Lena received orders to attend the Naval Special Warfare Advanced Sniper course, an elite program that would further enhance her already exceptional marksmanship skills. Her reputation as one of the military's finest precision shooters had been established through operational performance rather than training scores. "You've come a long way from that Marine who showed up at our shooting range 2 years ago," observed Lieutenant Commander Martinez during her performance evaluation. "Your development as an operator has been remarkable." "Thank you, sir. The team has taught me everything I know about special operations." Don't sell yourself short. You brought exceptional skills and the right attitude. The team just helped you apply those capabilities effectively. Martinez was right. Lena's journey from Marine sniper to Navy SEAL had required more than just individual excellence. It had demanded the ability to function effectively within a team of elite operators while maintaining the highest possible performance standards under extreme conditions. As she prepared for her next assignment, Lena reflected on the path that had brought her to this point. From a young girl learning to shoot in the mountains of Montana to a proven special operations warrior, serving alongside America's finest military personnel, the journey had been challenging beyond anything she had initially imagined. But it had also been exactly what she had hoped for when she first decided to pursue special operations training. She had found her place among warriors who shared her commitment to excellence and her dedication to serving at the highest possible level. The shooting demonstration that had started everything seemed like ancient history now, though it had occurred less than 2 years earlier. That single perfect shot had opened a door, but walking through it had required everything she possessed in terms of physical capability, mental resilience, and emotional strength. Now, as she looked toward future missions and continued service with SEAL Team 7, Lena felt confident that she belonged exactly where she was. The doubt and uncertainty that had characterized her early days in selection had been replaced by quiet confidence earned through operational success. Her father would have been proud to see how far she had come, applying the lessons he had taught her about patience, persistence, and precise shooting to serve her country at the highest level. The skills learned during childhood hunting trips in Montana had evolved into capabilities that could determine the outcome of critical national security missions. The transformation was complete. Staff Sergeant Lena Gray, Marine Corps sniper, had become Petty Officer First Class Lena Gray, Navy SEAL, one of the most elite warriors in the American military. Her journey had proven that excellence knew no gender boundaries, and that